What's up, Tweeners? Welcome back to another Tweener tennis video today here on the channel. And today we have an awesome interview for you guys with pro tennis player Katherine Harrison, who played at UCLA, who qualified for 2 majors this year through qualifying, not through direct entrance, but fought her way in 2 of the Grand Slams to make the main draw. Actually won a round at Wimbledon as well. And it's an unbelievable story to hear from her with 2 backhands, an inspiration from Roger Federer, and so much more to her game, and I'm really appreciative that she joined our channel today. Make sure you go check out her story down below in the description below if you want to follow her on Instagram and Twitter. And if you are new to the channel, make sure you leave a like on this video to show your appreciation and consider subscribing. We're trying to hit 3,000 subscribers by the end of this year, and would love to have you guys join the Tweener at Tennis family. So smash that like button and enjoy our interview with pro tennis player Katherine Harrison. Because this is, you made the finals of doubles and singles, and you,
no, semifinals. Sorry. Yeah.
Semifinals of both singles and doubles,
Yeah.
and you got home with $2K in your pocket.
It was 2 something. There was a little bit over 2K, but yeah, it was a little bit of a downer after the Wimbledon paycheck. I was like, man, I just played just as well as I did at Wimbledon.
Yeah.
And lost in the ITF and went home with, I don't even want to do that math, some small fraction of the paycheck. And I was like, wow, tennis is silly.
Well, since I have you here, and I really do already enjoy this conversation, Katherine Harrison, UCLA, qualified for 2 majors in singles this year, which is, it's something that people don't understand how much it means to them, because not just getting their first round $80,000 of just making it to the main draw, but just being able to compete for it and then go to the main draw is another level. You have 2 backhands or 2 forehands, or whoever, which way you want to put it. You use a Prince racket that I don't think anyone has used in the last 10 years. No offense.
It's none taken.
And you Pac-12 individual champion as well at college, which is ironic because people don't have that anymore. And I feel like that would be such a great thing to have for college tennis. Mm-hmm. But Katherine, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
No, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
This is exciting because we've already had a very fun conversation before we started recording this about how her ITF players that she's faced were in main draws of Grand Slams this year. But before we get into the details of that, how did you get involved first? Because I just want to put a layout before we get into what specifically happened this year. How'd you get involved with this sport?
So both my parents played college tennis. My mom played at North Texas and my dad played at University of Washington. Oh, wow. So I grew up playing. I've wanted to be pro since I was really small. Actually, one of my first tennis memories, I was just talking about it this past week, was literally sitting, watching Wimbledon, watching Federer play at Wimbledon with like my after school snacks, when I was like 7 or 8. And I watched him play, and I like distinctly remember, I was like, wow, this guy is amazing. Like, this guy is incredible. I want to be like this guy. And I went to my lesson the next day and I told my coach, I was like, I no longer want like a 2-handed backhand volley. I'm having a 1-handed one like Roger. And all I want to do is hit slice. So
I have so many questions when we get to your technique later about this. So
anyway,
yes.
Yeah. So that's actually how that happened. Mm-hmm. But no, I've played since I was really small. There was a professional tournament in Memphis, which is where I grew up. I grew up being a ball kid for that tournament. And
oh yeah.
I always was like, man, it'd be fun to play here. And then there was actually a guy, it was a men's and women's combined 250. And there was a guy who was really mean to me on the court as a ball kid. And nice. I was taken off the court because I threw the balls away from him because I was like, don't you sass me. I was like, I am going to play this tournament and I'm going to be better than you. And I'm going to be nice to the ball kids. Like, and so little sassy me, that was like, when I was like, I wanted to become a pro tennis player. was because of that tournament. And then also, I mean, obviously like Wimbledon and everything.
And every other thing. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But I always wanted to go to college first because both my parents played college tennis. And I was like, well, obviously that's what I want to do too. And I was never like overtly good enough to go pro straight out of high school. I had some very good results. Like, don't get me wrong. Like I was top 10 in the country on tennis recruiting and all of the things. Like I got, gold, silver, bronze balls in the USTA tournaments, but I just didn't play that much pro and I wasn't that big. And, I was just never overtly good enough to give up, a $200,000 plus education to go pro. And I'm also kind of the person that sees things out. If I start something, I want to finish it. And so once I started college, I didn't really want to turn pro in the middle of college because that, I don't know. And my first 3 years of college, I played number 5 on the team. So I was never like aggressively good in college either until my the end of my junior year and beginning of my senior year. And then I got bumped up, but yeah. And so then after that, I started playing pro. I got injured for a year, the year after I graduated. And then, I've been playing pro since then.
And now it's paying off really with this past year being a breakthrough year.
Yeah, it really is. It's a little delayed in my opinion, just because of, I was really on this track before COVID happened. And obviously I am very privileged in the fact that the only thing COVID affected was my tennis career. It was awful for everyone. But, at the end of 2019, I had won my first ITF singles title. I'd had some really good wins. Beginning of 2020, I had some really good results as well, singles and doubles. And, that was really going to be my first, like, I felt it, I wanted that to be my first year playing Grand Slams. And then, Wimbledon got canceled. And I would have been in Wimbledon qualifying. That would have been my first Wimbledon.
Wow.
I would have been in US Open qualifying very easily, but they canceled it. And so I would have played US Open. And then by the time French rolled around, like my ranking had kind of dropped. And I think I missed that cutoff by like 4 or 5 spots. But yeah, so it just kind of threw a wrench in the plans. But, like I said, I like to see things out. And I wasn't going to give up, but that's not to say there weren't some pretty trying times in the last couple of years.
No, of course. I think that's the hardest part too, because for a lot of people, and I feel like you can relate to this as well. You spoke about it on the Tennis Warehouse podcast, I believe, of how COVID affected not just your career, but everyone else's, with that momentum that just stopped. Yeah. And when you build something like that for tennis players, it's I wouldn't say momentum anymore. I would just say building the confidence that you have in your own game to play better and to play better opponents in those situations makes a huge difference. So for you mentally, where was your mind at when you knew you couldn't play based off your ranking after COVID?
During COVID, I was okay. Like during 2020, I was like, okay, because I was like, oh, everyone's in the same boat. This kind of sucks for everyone. But then like 2021 rolled around and the beginning of last year was really, really hard. I, to be candid, almost quit like multiple times, like not like out of an I can't do this anymore. Well, there was a few of those too. But of course, like strictly financially, my parents want to help me out. I went to college for 4 years. The deal was like free college. They helped me out for my first few years on the pro circuit. And, I got injured for a year. And then anyway, they're like, we love you, but we're trying to retire and we're not, super wealthy. And, we want to help you out, but we kind of can't anymore, if we want to retire. And so it kind of, push came to shove. It was like, if I really wanted it, it was up to me to figure it out. And, I started posting on Facebook groups and, trying to get lessons, try to, string enough money together to keep going, which I did. I was teaching at one point last spring, like 3 to 4 lessons a day on top of my own, on top of my own training. and just to, make ends meet. And
Wow.
yeah, it was character building. But and I was playing on clay, which is not my favorite surface, so that was a little test. But I've always known that I had the ability to play at this level. It hadn't clicked yet. I right after college, I actually played very well for that fall. I won 3 titles in doubles. I made the finals of a singles tournament, singles futures, but then I got injured for a whole year. And then after that, it really took me a solid 6 to 8 months to get back to where I was. Wow. I'd never had a significant injury before. And anyway, then 2019 was a great year. Won a bunch of, really tough matches against tough opponents. And then kind of same thing happened. I was like ready to go, 2020, that's going to be my year. And then it wasn't, and then 2021, at the beginning of the year, just, it wasn't that I like doubted my ability. It was just all the extra factors were what was kind of weighing me down, how am I going to, pay for coaching? Am I going to be able to pay for physical therapy, or do I have to do it myself? Or I'm going to have to do fitness myself. I'll have to, drive to this tournament as opposed to fly because I can't afford it, type of thing. But anyway, so I feel like I've been about to make a breakthrough for a while. It's just life circumstances have not let me do that. Yeah. So to kind of answer your question, like I've always had the confidence in myself. It's just the opportunities haven't quite been there. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with this year, because these were my first 2 Grand Slams that I played in singles and I qualified for both of them. So that really kind of affirmed what I had been believing, about myself.
And for you, and unbelievable story too. Like I feel like I'm listening to a movie script at this point from what you just went through, to be honest. And not to be corny in that fact, but it's that kind of narrative that you hear from lower ranked players that go through the whole ITF futures pro circuit to then making a Grand Slam and pushing a world number 5 to one of the best matches that they played during that tournament. And for you kind of to just break it down piece by piece in your game style with your 2 forehands or / backhands. When I looked up 2 backhands on the internet, it's called 2 forehands. Apparently it's not 2 backhands, even though it's two hands.
Yeah.
And now you just said Roger Federer, you wanted to learn how to hit only slice and do a one-handed volley. Can you walk me through why you wanted to be the most frustrating player to ever play against and to annoy the crap out of every single person that watches?
Oh my God.
Play?
It makes me so happy that that's how you describe my game. That's kind of what I went for at Wimbledon, to be honest.
Did you really?
Yeah, I did, because it was grass, and the qualifying courts at Roehampton are very different than the actual Wimbledon courts.
They're not, and it's not as, I would say, as pristine. It's still good quality grass compared to everything else, but it's not.
Of course, it's great quality. I mean, compared to everywhere else, but the ball does stay super low. It like there are a lot of bad bounces, and I would say like probably every other shot I hit was just some type of a hack. Like I absolutely hacked my way through qualifying, and it worked because it's grass. It was awesome. And anyway, but your question, sorry, repeat your question. I got sidetracked.
It's okay. The question was, how did we get to 2 backhands?
Oh, yes.
For your game. And how do you grow up learning that and having coaches tell you to hit a certain way?
So when I started, like I said, I was super small. I mean, I started taking lessons when I was probably 7 or 8.
Okay.
But my parents would go out and, they would practice, and they would, buy me like the smallest little baby racket you could find, and pitch me balls and all of the above. Anyway, so I started when I was like I started first hitting balls when I was like 2 or 3, and I was just not strong enough to swing the racket with one hand.
Oh, wow.
And so, yeah, and I always wanted to hit the ball hard. That was my thing. I always liked hitting it super hard. And so with an extra hand on your forehand, when you're 3 or 4, you can hit it a lot harder than with one.
Yeah.
And anyway, and then I just had the normal run-of-the-mill two-handed backhand. And then as I got older, though, my forehand in juniors was by far my best shot. Like, my backhand was very bad. Like,
I'm very confused
it was
by
not
this statement.
No, I know. And my backhand was not great. Like, I went through a phase where if you kicked it to my backhand, I would miss it like almost in the court before it got to the net. Like, it was so bad. And I actually, when I got to be kind of a teenager, I would slice a lot of my backhand. Like, I went through this phase when I was like 15, 16, and I sliced a lot of my backhands. And I had a big serve, like, for my age.
Mhm.
And I was kind of, my 2 best shots, when I was 15, 16, 17 were my serve and my forehand. And so all my coaches growing up were kind of like, well, the reason she's good is because of her forehand. So why would we change it? Like, I went through like a 2 or 3 week period, maybe when I was like 11 or 12, maybe, where one of my coaches was like, oh, just try it out. But it just wasn't natural. Like, I just couldn't get the same pop on it. I mean, I can hit one, very easily. Even today, go out and I can rally probably 10, 20, 30 in a row.
Yeah.
But it's just not,
doesn't feel good.
It's just not as natural at all. And I hit it sometimes, when somebody hits like a wide serve to my forehand on the deuce side, that's
You
a
reach
right-hander.
for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I reach for it and it's just naturally there. But no, I have a forehand with a hand on it. So it's not 2 backhands. Like, I don't switch my grips. It's just a forehand with an extra hand. And then backhand is normal. I don't question it. I don't question it. I watched a lot of
How
film.
hard do you grip the racket with your left hand when you go for a forehand?
They're about equal.
Then that's just a backhand. That's not a forehand.
Well, if it was a backhand, like a left-handed backhand would actually be my left hand's on the bottom.
So hold on.
You would switch hands. So
no,
yeah.
I know how tennis works, so thank you. So when you hit a regular backhand, your right hand's at the bottom.
Yes.
Your right hand is always at the bottom.
Yeah, I'm grabbing my portable charger. Yes.
Okay. So you don't switch grips at all?
No, I'm like this is backhand, this is forehand. Like, I keep the same. My left hand is always on the top of the racket. My right hand is always on the bottom of the racket. No, I watched a lot of film of, Wimbledon and US Open. And sometimes I would watch myself hitting shots and I'm like, I'm just not going to watch because it goes in. And when I hit it, it feels so natural and normal. But
so
anyway,
you just go from this. See if the camera can focus from this. Is this how you would hold your forehand, right?
Yes.
And then backhand, would you change this?
I mean, I changed the grips on.
So what would your grip be for a backhand? Completely continental, or would you?
Shoot, I feel like I need to grab a racket. A little bit. Like, I mean, I do have a continental. I was also not taught grips that much as a junior. I kind of just did what felt natural. And so on my backhand, I do have a continental or close to it with my right hand. But then my left hand, I don't know what that's even called.
So are you ambidextrous or no?
No, I'm very right-handed.
So many questions.
No.
Well, to put it in perspective, I wrote down a list of names. Where's my notebook that I threw in frustration from this concept? Marion Bartoli, Sue Shea, Monica Seles, Peng Shui, Fabrice Santoro, but you serve with your right hand. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So who would you watch kind of knowing that this was going to be your style, like you said, you watched a lot of film of it. Who would you look at least for inspiration or ideas to help your game develop?
You know, it's kind of funny you read off that list because I never really watched a bunch of two-handed players play.
Really?
Yeah, I watched Bartoli,
Okay.
you know, at Wimbledon, and you know, when she won those 2 years. And I mean, she does like those two times she had those amazing runs at Wimbledon, you know, or was it one? She won one time, obviously, but then I think there was another time where she made maybe semis, I want to say, or she did well another time, I think also.
She was a solid player, and the fact that she won that Wimbledon was a miracle, to be honest. But
no, it was. But like, I watched her play that time, and I mean, she was doing all of the things that when I'm playing well, that's what I do as well. You know, she was cutting off the angles and using her two-handed forehand to, you know, get that cross court through the sideline as opposed to like more linear through the baseline. Like, so it's, you know, it's much more diagonal. Yeah, it's more of a flat angle that you have with a two-handed forehand than, you know, that kind of spin, the top spin you have to kind of get to lift it with a one-hander. But no, I would honestly, this is so weird. Growing up, I love to watch Federer. Just I loved his, I mean, first of all, like his footwork and how far in front he would make contact, and his use of variety, and how his serve was so effortless and it flowed so well. You know, like I dragged my foot up on my serve. But you know, whenever I would, you know, watch someone to try and visualize my serve, it would be his serve, you know, to try and get that perfect, like down together, up together kind of motion. I would watch his position, serve. Right? Yeah, exactly. Whenever I would visualize a contact point on an inside in or inside out forehand, not that ours look anything remotely similar, but just visualizing that contact point. No, it's like, it's that, like, I'm trying to get there. I'm absolutely not getting there because physically I don't think I can do the straight forehand, you know, contact point.
Not many people
my extra hand on it. Yes. No, but you know, that's what I would visualize whenever I, you know, incorporate my slice. You know, I whenever I first learned to slice, his is the one that I modeled it after. I've changed it now because I don't think anyone can do the perfect, like, you know, above the shoulder knife with that kind of timing. I have to come more behind the ball and through the ball to make it effective. But yeah, it's weird because we could not play more opposite or look more opposite on a tennis court. But he was really the one that I watched also, just because he's, you know, gorgeous when he's playing tennis. You know, it's like art when he plays. So it's like, how can you not watch that?
No, it's true. And for him as well, the idea that how he made, and kind of with Rafa, the perfect fire and ice combination of how they played. And at least for our generation, it was that rivalry that we looked up to, or we tried to emulate the most, because every time someone new came onto the tour, we'd be like, does he look like more like Rafa, or does he look more like Roger? And I think it's a very interesting and very well-rounded mindset to have, that you can emulate your game off someone without even looking remotely like their strokes.
Yeah, I mean, because it was kind of concepts that Roger does that he did well that I wanted to do well. You know, like when you take that inside in forehand, he's able to like take it so early that he can curve it like the other way, you know, so that it's not just a linear forehand. Like he's really getting so far around the outside of it that it makes the opponent run, you know, even more. Like the inside in forehand, like he gets, or inside out forehand, like he gets it so early that it is so far in the court on the other side that it's such an angle, and it opens up the court so much more. Just like how he was able to open up the court is what I was watching with every single type of shot. You know, he prepares his slice backhand the exact same way every single time. But, you know, he can take that deep line. He can cut that short cross. He can drop shot. He can go deep slice. He can go like hard down the middle, but all with the same backswing. And I try to do that too. Slice is a big part of my game. And as I'm, you know, playing against better and better people and moving up the rankings, like it's just as effective, and it's more effective. You know, a lot of girls do not like it. And it's different. And, you know, I'm 5'5". I'm, you know, not gonna, like, let's be real, I'm not gonna out hit a lot of these, you know, like Rabikina and girls like that. I mean, they're just straight up bigger and they have more weight behind the ball. And so I can hit with them, you know, like, but I feel like my variety can be, you know, a great tool that I use as well. And it's, you know, it has been, especially this past summer.
Oh, 100%. And that actually kind of transitions into the US Open, at least for when we talk about big hitters. The first woman you played in the US Open after qualifying through the qualifying draw, repeating myself, great job. You played Sabalenka. When you match up against someone like that, one, what was your game plan going into it? And two, how do you find yourself in a winning position when you play someone that knows they can go far in a tournament like that?
So I mean, I did go in with a game plan. You know, I was able to get a hold of some, you know, stats, like where she would go on big points, you know, where she missed the most first balls type of thing. And it was helpful. It was, in the first set, I will say, like, I mean, she kicked my butt. I was pretty nervous. To be honest, I was just making some mental errors that I was not making through qualifying just because of who I was playing. You know, obviously you always want to have respect for your opponent, but I had a bit too much respect for my opponent. You know, we'd be in like a backhand cross court rally and I'd hit, you know, 2 cross court and then try and pull the trigger down the line. Whereas like, I just didn't have faith in myself that no, like you can go backhand to backhand or forehand to forehand, you know, with anyone in the world. You don't need to pull that trigger until you have the right shot. And then in the second set, I know it was 6-3, but it truly was a close set. Like you know, I was 2 points away from going up 4-1 in the second set. I was up 2-1 and, you know, I had 2 break points. She definitely aced me on one of them. I forget what happened on the other one. And then I had, I think, at least 1 game point the next game. I think 2, if I remember correctly, but I could be wrong. And, you know, she played a good point, but she hit a shot that hit the outside of the line, you know, and I think she had been averaging over like 11 or 12 double faults a match this season or something crazy like that.
Her serve game was so off the charts. So I'm surprised that you wouldn't try to take advantage of that.
Well, no, that was one thing that I was kind of anticipating happening, you know, her double faulting and giving me some points. That was one thing that I was anticipating that didn't happen. She actually served quite well. She only served, I think, 4 double faults and she hit like 4 aces. And I kind of felt bad about myself. I was like, dang, you know, was I not attacking, you know, enough? And because I've got a good return, you know, my return is one of my favorite parts of my game. And, you know, I got actually the Hawkeye stats after the match. I think it was from a foot behind the baseline and forward. I hit 100% of my second serve returns a foot behind the baseline or in front. So I was attacking, you know, I know exactly. Like I did kind of all I could do and she served very well. I think that it would have been a lot different of a match if I had gotten into it early. She went up 4-0. And I think if, you know, and I had game points in the second game. And I think if I had started, at least like holding my serve, and gotten it close at the beginning, I think it could have been different. And I think if she had served how she had been serving kind of all season, it could have also been different.
Yeah.
Because
100%.
I don't think I'm going to, with how I return, I don't think I'm going to lose a set to someone, or I'm going to at least win a set against somebody giving me, 10 to 15 points, free points on their serve, like I'm good enough to where I could at least split sets there.
Yeah.
But, she didn't, she stepped up and she executed. I was actually surprised. She doesn't hit the ball as hard as I thought she did.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, she does take big cuts at it, but she takes cuts at it from kind of far behind the baseline.
So it's not as direct at you.
Yeah, it has more of an arc to it. Like I struggled a lot more with Tom Yanovich's ball because I lost to her second round of Wimbledon.
Wow.
She really, like, her ball is like a line drive and she hits it deep. Like Sabalenka moves the ball around the court better than I thought that she did, or gave her credit for doing. Like she really hit her targets. Like, I mean, consistently she was hitting lines. Like when I got off the court, I was really upset. But one of the first things, I told my coach, I was like, I'm going to be really surprised if she doesn't go very deep this week, or this tournament.
She did.
No, she did. And I'm absolutely not surprised by that. Like I would have been surprised if she had lost earlier than she did. I know this next round match, she almost did, but like once she kind of got it together and, came back and won that second and third set, then, she beat the girl third round that was also a qualifier who beat Rabikina. She beat her like 0-2 or something. Burrell, I think, or Burrell. I don't know how to say
Clara
it. She's
Burrell,
from France.
the French. She was a junior number 1 too, I believe.
Yeah, and she saved like 100 match points her last round qualifying. It was like, I shouldn't have been watching the match because I was waiting to go on for my last round qualifying. I was so invested in this match. I was like, this girl has my respect forever. Like she was down. So there was a rain delay. She was down a break and like 4-3 in the third. It started dumping down rain when she was down match point at like 6-5 in the third set or something. It was like 5-4 or 6-5. She was down 40-30, has like 3 match points against her that game. Anyway, I was like, okay, we're staying focused. I have my own match to play, but like, oh my God, this court is right here. Anyway, but yeah, so Sabalenka beat her really badly. I think it was like 6-0. I don't know what the second set was.
It was probably one of the most straightforward matches I think she had that tournament. And for her to then take a set off Iga in the semis,
she kind of should have won that, to be honest.
I think so too. I think she kind of collapsed in the second set, but that's neither here nor there. That's on her, and Iga won the whole thing. So
of course
we're in a new era of women's tennis with her. For you, which qualifier tournament was tougher for you mentally or physically, Wimbledon or US Open?
Mentally, Wimbledon by absolute days, like
really
by a million miles.
How come?
Because like, I mean, without like, sounding, weird or deep or whatever, like Wimbledon was my goal of professional tennis. Like that really was kind of the final, like when I was in juniors, I played Wimbledon twice and I qualified for it both times. And it was one of my last tournaments I played before going to college. And I remember I walked out of the grounds at the All England Club, and I vividly remember thinking to myself and telling one of my friends who I was there with, I was like, I don't care what it takes. I don't care how hard I have to train. I will make it back here in singles, doubles, mixed. I do not care. As long as I make it back to the All England Club, I don't care. I will consider my professional career a success. And like, Wimbledon is my first, like I was saying earlier, was one of my first memories about tennis, watching Roger play at Wimbledon. It's always been my goal, just the history behind the tournament, the prestige of it, just the details that they have to, the attention to detail at that tournament. I mean, when I played in juniors, I was like, wow, this actually is as cool as I thought it would be. And there's very few life experiences that are that, you usually like hype everything up in your head, and then you get there and you're like, wow, this isn't that great. It's great for 5 minutes, but anyway, but Wimbledon was actually one of the ones where I was like, wow, this is worth it. This is cool. Everything about this is cool. And that was just in juniors, and so I was like, I can't imagine what pros would be. And, it just, in 2020, obviously I was in the tournament, COVID happened, absolutely crushed. Last year, I was not close in singles, but in doubles, my partner and I were like the 7th or 8th alternates, I think. And and my partner didn't think we had a chance to get in, which is totally fair. I mean, 7 or 8 deep is pretty far back. And so, she went and played another tournament that week, and I was like, that's fine. But then we moved in to the draw. Girls didn't sign in. Anyway, we would have played, if she had not played that tournament, we would have gotten in and we would have played at Wimbledon. So that was like 2 years kind of back to back. And at this point, I missed, also just background, I went to Australia in January, and I missed the cut by a single ranking point.
Nice.
I went as an alternate, in the warm-up tournament that I played, the 60K. I beat 3 girls that were all in qualifying, and then ended up losing to Katie Volonets, who played awesome that day.
She's been playing great too.
Katie she just hustles. You cannot hit a winner on her unless you hit like 6 lines in the same point. But anyway, so I went and I signed in, and I missed the cutoff for qualifying by a singular ranking point. Not even like, maybe if I'd had like 10 points in between me and the person above me, like, that's another 2 rounds at a 25K or something. Yeah. No, it was a single ranking point.
So actually, that sucks. First of all, that sucks.
So bad. So bad.
Second of all, what happens when you go to Australia or you go to a big tournament? Is it just like burning money in front of your eyes?
So the reason that I went, the only thing that numbed the sting of that was that Australia paid for it, because they. So,
okay.
Yeah. So
walk us through that process year. Because well, to give people context, people that don't know, you go to a tournament and you're signed up but you're an alternate. Essentially, and correct me if I'm wrong, because obviously I'm not the pro here. When you sign up and there's an alternate list, if you're within, I think 20, you have a good shot to make qualifying or main draw, depending on who signs up or who is there.
Yeah.
But if you go and you don't make it, you're not playing the tournament. So correct. How did Australia pay for your situation?
So this was a very different year. It was kind of a one-off, because of the COVID policies in Australia, being so stringent and everything. Australia offered to pay for the flights of everyone in the tournament, and then I think it was the top 10 alternates as well.
Okay.
And so I was one of those by the time the flight left. And so I got my flight paid for. I think you got a flight, and then you also, if you were in the tournament, you got a +1. And one of my friends
remember that.
And one of my friends was just going for doubles, and so she didn't bring a coach with her, and so she gave me her +1 for her dad, or for my dad, who went with me. And for my hotel room, she let me have her coach's room, whatever. So a hotel was paid for. So, I mean, it was a risk, but it wasn't like an enormous financial risk, because they paid for everything. So that was good. And I probably wouldn't have gone if they did not do that. But anyway, I did go. But to answer your previous question, I'm in Wimbledon, and I did cry a little bit when I saw my name move in to the tournament. Like, I it was just kind of like a weight was lifted off my shoulders because
You
there
accomplished
are
something
points
that you
I
wanted to
accomplished
do.
something, yeah, that I did want to do. And yeah, my first round match, I was just so happy to be there, that I kind of wasn't tight at all. And I played a British wild card who I thought was pretty nervous. And she
Jody?
didn't. No, Jody got a main draw wild card. I played Eden Silva.
Oh yeah, Eden. She's solid.
Yeah, and she's won. I think she won like a couple 25Ks earlier this year. So obviously she's playing good tennis.
Hmm.
And I won that match 6-1, 7-5. And then my second round, I was kind of like, oh, well, you've already won a match, like you've already, like, that's amazing. You
Yeah.
won a match at Wimbledon. Like, doesn't matter, it's qualifying. You can always say you won a match at Wimbledon. And then second round, the girl that I played, absolutely, she just hated my slice. I sliced like 80% of balls just being annoying.
Yep.
Because she started yelling at her coach how much she hated my slice. So I was like, well,
Good.
I'm just gonna slice. So I'm just gonna slice more now. And then she was not happy. She did not have a good day on court after that.
Perfect.
So I won that 7-5, 6-1. And then the last round qualifying, I feel like I could pretty much do anything in tennis in the world after winning that match. Like,
Really?
That's the toughest match I've ever had to play mentally in my life. I got out on the court and it was just kind of like one of those days where you're just seeing it like a watermelon. And like, I went up and I was like, okay, I'm nervous. I'm serving, I'm serving up first, I'm serving the first point of the match. And I was like, okay, we're just going to go nice, safe body serve, ace T. And I was like, oh, wow, I wasn't going there, but that happened, same, like, and it was just kind of that type of day, I'd serve and be like, oh, okay, like, I'm just going to hit it to her forehand, win her down the line.
Yeah.
And so I got up 6-1, 5-2. And I had a match point. I was serving for it at 40-30. And I hit a serve to her backhand. She really had not been liking my kick serve that day to her backhand.
Mm-hmm.
And she hits it like a short ball to my backhand. And I hit it. And as I hit it, I was like, I did it. And then I like missed it in the net. And I was like, no, like,
I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh, but the thought of you saying I did it and then just completely wasting it.
Like, and it was literally by like an inch too, like half an inch. I mean, it hit the tape and it like could have rolled over, could have come back. Anyway, it came back on my side. I didn't like emote. Like, you couldn't really tell. I didn't get upset or anything. Just all of a sudden, everything just like hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, are you actually going to put in all of these, decades of work?
Mm-hmm.
This is your dream. Like, this is why you play professional tennis. This is why you have made every sacrifice that you've ever made in your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And you're really going to miss it by a half of an inch. And like, outwardly, I don't think I said one word the whole match, because I was like, if I open my mouth, I'm going to puke. Like, from the first point. And so I proceeded to get down 6-5, like 5-6. And I can't tell you what happened. After that, I kind of blacked out a little bit, but I won the tiebreak 7-3. I held my serve and then won the tiebreaker. But to answer your question, Wimbledon will forever be the hardest and US Open was like, it was fine. But in my brain, I was like, I mean, obviously there are stakes and obviously I'm very nervous, but at the same time, I'm like, I have achieved, my ultimate goal. I played at the All England Club. I won my first round in singles and doubles at the All England Club. I now know that I have the ability to do that. Let's see if I can do it again, at US Open. And each match I was like, well, let's see if I can win another one. Let's see if I can win another one. Yeah. And, I didn't expect myself to win my third round qualifying. That girl that I played is an amazing competitor. I know who she is. We're friends. We practiced together a few days beforehand. She's really been trending upwards. She's got a great attitude, really good game. And she had lost 4 games total in qualifying up until her third round. Sorry.
I'm trying to think of who you played again.
I
I'm
played
sorry.
Eva Liss, Lys is her last name.
Is
She's
she
German.
okay? Oh, yes. Excuse me.
Yeah.
My apologies. Go ahead.
No, you're fine. No, but anyway, I didn't expect myself to win that match because I think she beat two good players in her first two rounds, like 1-1 and then 2-0. And I'm like, dang, okay, like this is gonna be a tough day today. But I did end up winning. I played very well. I played a smart match. And yeah, but to answer your question, nothing will ever be as hard as qualifying at Wimbledon that year because it was just so much new stuff.
Yeah.
It was like first Grand Slam, my whole goal as a pro, like coming together, haven't played on grass in God knows how long, it just was so much stuff to deal with. And anyway, yeah.
Well, it makes a lot of sense because of how prestigious Wimbledon is compared to every other major. And I feel like, especially in Europe, for some people, Wimbledon was kind of the tip top best major that you could win, with the golden trophy, with the giant gold and silver plated dish. That was their castle. That was their castle to run up to. And it seems to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, but do you think Wimbledon is the most prestigious tournament for tennis?
I mean, in my opinion, probably. It's just got so much history. And I mean, not to take away from any other slam, because now I'm seeing, every slam is so different.
It's so different.
But it's just like the amount of prestige and attention to detail every single aspect of Wimbledon, has, like, it does seem so, in my opinion. Obviously, all 4 Grand Slams are the same amount of ranking points and everything, but just the fact that it's the only Grand Slam where the qualifying is not held, at the same site. So you actually do have to play the main draw to be at that club. And just, I mean, how meticulous they have to be about maintaining the grass, and just how much of an event it is for everyone that goes there. I think that it's, in its own way, it's definitely the coolest. The US Open was also amazing, in its own way. But I really like the history of Wimbledon. I like that it's unique, being the only Grand Slam on grass. I think it's all very, very cool.
I think it's amazing to kind of see that perspective too. And there's so much more I could talk to you about, Catherine, but I think for you, it's amazing to see your journey and what you've accomplished this year. And going into next year, what would be the goal? Would the goal be to qualify for all 4 slams, or to get in through main draw immediately?
Yeah. So right now, my goal for next year, like, kind of big goal, I do want to be main draw at Wimbledon.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, playing any match at Wimbledon, qualifying, whatever, is unbelievable, and I would be grateful for anything. But that is my goal, is to be straight into the main draw next year. I am telling, myself, like, it is my goal. I like to set aggressive goals, because then once it's there, it's like, if you miss it by a little bit, you're still in a good spot. I would like to make main draw in Australia also.
Okay.
Which is aggressive given the amount of tournaments that there are left that I'm going to play this season. But, it's there, it's not doable. So, worst case, I'm in qualifying, like, darn. I would have killed for that this year,
exactly.
So,
but it's still it's still a good goal for you to have, because no matter what, even if you make qualifying, you're still getting to go to the tournament. You're still going to get a good payday. You're still going to get good points. It's still the prestigious part of the game.
Yeah. Right? And you're still playing, like, at the Australian Open. Like, I really have never understood why people don't think qualifying like sort of counts. I mean, especially after what Raducanu did last year at the US Open, it's like, obviously it's still like a big part of the tournament, you know, it's still, I mean, no, it is a huge part. So I would be super happy with, you know, either one, especially since, you know, it's on the grounds of the Australian Open. You're playing on the same courts, you know, it's just basically like you're playing a bigger draw.
Yeah. There's more people. It's just
exactly. People. You just have to win 3 more matches than everyone else. Like, it's fine.
Yeah, that's totally fine. Just mentally, physically. There's
great physios there. It's okay.
8 hours on court, essentially, not counting on court time.
Yeah.
Just great. Catherine, thank you so much for joining me today. This was a real pleasure, and I'm very glad that you were able to do this with us. Where can people follow you on your journey? Is it Instagram, Twitter, website? What
Instagram's probably better. It's my username is Kat Harrison, but the O in Harrison is a 0
because she's unique.
Or Kat Harrison was taken, but
that's totally fine. You can find all the links to her information down in the description below. I really appreciate all of you coming and watching this video. Make sure to go check out Catherine and go support her. And Catherine, thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it.
No, it's great to catch up. Thanks.
No worries. Thank you.